Welcome everyone, this is Honest Restart. So, Pikmin 3 Deluxe is real. The game was just announced and it's coming out October 30th. This long rumored game is finally coming and I'm pretty excited about it. I didn't get a chance to finish Pikmin 3 back on the Wii U, so I'm definitely looking forward to playing this deluxe version on the Switch with all the DLC and the new Olimar and Louis missions. I think it's pretty exciting. But, at the end of the day, this is a Wii U port and it's not coming out until about 3 months from now, a little bit less. So it kind of begs the question, is that really the only major Nintendo game we're going to get to play until October? Is there nothing else coming out from Nintendo until that point? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now before we jump into things, I want to quickly talk about my social media. There is a Twitter page, a Discord community, a Patreon page, and a Twitch channel. If you are interested in any of that, check it all out, it is linked in the description below. If we go back to the beginning of July, my thought process at the time was that Nintendo had to announce something either a few days before or a few days after the release for Paper Mario the Origami King. Yet Paper Mario came out and nothing happened. We had to wait a few weeks later until the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. And let me make this clear, this was a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. The last time we got a major Nintendo Direct was back in September of 2019. And the last time we got a proper Nintendo Direct Mini was March of this year. This partner showcase was something even lesser than that, and fans tried to temper their expectations. I was one of them, yet a great deal of Nintendo fans found themselves disappointed unless they were Shin Megami Tensei fans, and I think that's cool, but consider this, those Shin Megami Tensei games aren't coming out until 2021, and I actually think that's the biggest reason why this showcase wasn't very well received. There was nothing for Nintendo fans to look forward to for this year. Nothing was really announced besides Cadence of Hyrule. And yes, that is published by Nintendo, it is technically a Nintendo game, and we are getting it in October, I believe before Pikmin 3 Deluxe, so technically there is another Nintendo game before Pikmin 3 Deluxe. But this is a physical release of a game that already came out last year, and this is a game made by an indie developer that is getting some support from Nintendo. So this is a small thing here, it's not anything major, we're just getting some DLC with a physical release in October. The point I'm making here is that Nintendo didn't announce anything to satisfy fans at the time, and fast forward to this week where we got the Twitter trailer drop for Pikmin 3 Deluxe, and that's great, we're finally getting a Nintendo game, but it's a Nintendo game that has already come out as well. It is a Wii U port, and I want to add that while it is getting some new content, from the trailer we saw, the visuals don't look like they've gotten any sort of improvement at all. It's possible that the trailer is from an early build of the game, there wasn't even any sort of new content in the trailer, we learned about all of these things afterwards. It may even be the case that they created the footage for this trailer with Wii U gameplay, because that's how it looked like Wii U gameplay and nothing more. The point I'm making here is that this isn't a brand new original Nintendo game, this isn't even an extensive remaster like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, this is a Wii U port that has some additional content, but it doesn't look like it's going to be some sort of major big enhancement for the game, just something that's a little bit better. And this game is not coming out until the end of October. We are currently in August, and we currently have nothing announced for September, and there doesn't seem to be anything else major from Nintendo coming out in October. A lot of people are thinking that Pikmin 3 Deluxe, besides Cadence of Hyrule, are the only Nintendo games we're getting until that point. So that would mean that August is going to get nothing, September is going to get nothing, and we're going to basically go over 3 months between one Nintendo game and another, and that other is Pikmin 3 Deluxe, not an original Nintendo game. We're going to go through an entire quarter of the year without any sort of original release from Nintendo. I just didn't think we would find ourselves in this situation. Nintendo has never gone, at least during the Switch life cycle, more than a month without some sort of major Nintendo game to come out. And we're looking at a situation where it's not just going to be 1 month, it might even be 2 months. Because right now we are in August and there's nothing announced, and then September still has nothing announced, and they have to announce something really soon if there's going to be something to come out in September. And then we have to wait until the end of October to get Pikmin 3 Deluxe. So basically, all of August, all of September, and all of October before Pikmin 3 comes out. And I want to point out that Paper Mario came out halfway through July. So we're talking about almost 3.5 months here without a major release from Nintendo. That's strange, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the pandemic. But if you compare Nintendo to, say, for example, Sony, they've had a lot of major releases come out this year. What's going on with Nintendo? It just feels like they've been really slow this year, and a lot of people were thinking that 2020 would be the Switch's peak. Usually in that third or fourth year is when we see the biggest, best games come out for a system, and 2020 for Nintendo hasn't been that. It's been dominated by ports and remasters. The only original games we've gotten from Nintendo this year are Animal Crossing and Paper Mario. Now, there may be some smaller things that have come out, but in terms of major releases, those are the only ones. Everything else are ports. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, a Wii U port. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, a remaster from a Nintendo Wii game. And now with Pikmin 3 Deluxe, that's great and all, but it's still a Wii U port. And at this point, a lot of people have the expectation that nothing else will be announced between now and the release for Pikmin 3. Maybe we get something announced beforehand and it comes out after Pikmin 3, like say for example like November, maybe December. But even if that's the case, then we got nothing for this period right here, and I think that would ultimately mean that 2020 will have been the worst year for the Nintendo Switch when it comes to actual Nintendo games. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying I'm not excited about the games that we may be getting, but if you compare this year to the other years on Switch, it just isn't as strong, which I do find to be interesting because we recently got news of sales from Nintendo of the last quarter, and things are going really well for Nintendo right now in terms of sales. Animal Crossing has a lot to do with that. That game has already sold over 22 million and it came out last March. That's just insane. And profits are up to 428%. It's just crazy how well Nintendo is doing right now. But they are doing this well, not because of what they've been doing this year. They are doing this well because of all the great things they've been doing leading up to this year. And now 2020 is not looking so good. Can Nintendo recover from this? Absolutely, I have no doubt about that. All they have to do is drop a Nintendo Direct, maybe tease Metroid Prime 4, show Breath of the Wild 2, talk about some new Nintendo games, and fans will be really excited and things will be just fine. But for 2020, it's really starting to look like this is going to be a really, really slow year. So, that brings me to the question, is Pikmin 3 Deluxe really the only major Nintendo game we're getting until October? I don't think so. I'm still maintaining my prediction that we are getting something for September, and I think it's going to be the Mario Remasters. Throughout the entire Switch lifecycle, we have not seen Nintendo go through more than 1 month without a game. Sure, 2020 has been a slow year, but I still think they should be able to do this, especially considering that most of the games we've been getting this year are ports and remasters. These games, this collection has been rumored for quite some time at this point, and when we got the reports for the Mario Remasters, they also came alongside rumors for 3D World Deluxe and Pikmin 3 Deluxe, as well as Paper Mario. And we got Paper Mario, we got Pikmin 3 Deluxe, maybe those other things are also true. Mario's 35th anniversary is in September. I think it's coming out then, and maybe that's a bold prediction, and I get it, because we are already in August and nothing has been announced. Normally Nintendo announces things a little bit beforehand. If you look at this year, we have been seeing a lot of announcements with very short announcement to release windows, but a month would be really, really short. So I get it. This prediction definitely might seem a little shaky, but I want to point out that I'm not the only person that's been saying this for a while. There are other leakers that have been suggesting this. Well, I'm not a leaker, I'm just a speculator who looks at evidence and stuff, but there are people out there who still think it's coming out in September. Captain Tsubasa is someone we've been talking about a lot on this channel from recent era. He has a very good track record, and he's telling us to sort of hold on. There's going to be more announcements for August. Not to mention, Jeff Grubb has also been teasing something from Nintendo sometime between August 11th and August 22nd. So let's wait to see what happens then. It's possible we get some sort of announcement from Nintendo for something to come out this September, my prediction being the Mario Remasters. If that ends up happening, I think that's going to go over a long ways towards exciting fans and kind of filling up the gaps a little bit. It wouldn't seem that bad of a year if we get the Mario Remasters, and that would still leave room for something really cool to come out in November or December. I think there's definitely a chance that Nintendo can still turn things around and give us a pretty good 2020, or at least a pretty good close to 2020. Now let's assume I'm right. We get the Mario Remasters in September as opposed to say November or December, or just not being real. If that's the case, this still will be a year that will be mostly remasters and ports and not big brand new original games. But if that ends up being the case, like I already mentioned, that still leaves space for something to come out in November or December. What if Nintendo does have some original games come out during that time? I think it would make sense. Pokemon, while we are getting the DLC this year, there is no actual major physical release for this year, so maybe something else from Nintendo will be coming out in November. I've had a hope that it'll be Breath of the Wild 2, but as the year has gone on, it's become increasingly less and less likely that that game is going to come out this year. It's probably sometime next year at this point, even though I have a hope / prediction, even though I acknowledge it being less likely, that it could still come out this year. But point is, probably not Breath of the Wild 2, maybe something else. What could that be? We've talked about potentially a 2D Metroid, a Splatoon spin-off, maybe those could come out then, maybe Bayonetta 3, that's a possibility. Mario Kart 9 is also mentioned in rumors as well, that could maybe happen. If not that, maybe also 3D World Deluxe. Granted, that would be another Wii U port, but still it would be a game and that can maybe happen in November. I think it's a possibility. Point is though, that if the Mario Remasters come out in September and we have Pikmin 3 Deluxe in October, Nintendo could come out with something in November and December and the year could be pretty good. It still wouldn't be like the best year ever for Nintendo. I'd still say it's probably going to be the lowest ranking year in terms of like big releases from Nintendo, but still it could end up being a solid finish to the year and I still think there's hope. But let's consider another possibility here. The Mario Remasters may not come out in September. I could be entirely wrong. They might not even be real, but I think they're real. Let's assume that they are coming, but they're not coming out in September. They are coming out in November, which meaning that Pikmin 3 Deluxe would be the only major Nintendo game until October, and then we would have the Mario Remasters for November, which would be fine. I think that'd be pretty good, something that people would be excited about and it would sell really well, but then you'd be looking at it close to the year that wouldn't really have any original releases, which is something that I would consider to be kind of a bad thing. This year would be mostly just ports and remasters with just Paper Mario and Animal Crossing as original Nintendo releases for this year, and I feel like it's worth noting Animal Crossing was delayed into this year. But I should think it's also worth noting that Animal Crossing has been incredible. As we said earlier in the video, Animal Crossing has already sold over 22 million. It is currently the second best-selling game on Nintendo Switch, and it may even turn out to be the best-selling game on Nintendo Switch as time goes on, and profits are up over 428%. That's insane. So Nintendo is doing really well. I just hope they don't get complacent here. I hope that they continue to find ways to make compelling content and to maintain momentum, because the reason the Switch is doing so well this year is because of all the great things they've done before this year. So I'm hoping Nintendo pulls it out, gives us a very strong finish to 2020, and 2021 ends up being the actual peak to the Nintendo Switch as opposed to 2020, which has turned out to be a little slow. That all said, there's still hope for this year. I think there could still be some pretty good games coming, perhaps even before Pikmin 3 Deluxe. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.